Howdy and welcome to the Irish Marketing Podcast powered by IMJ and Tinpot Productions. I'm Daryl from Tinpot, and on today's pod we'll be talking to Keith Lawler, who is the Creative Director of LAUDHAUS, and they're a sonic branding house specialising in creating audio niceness for brands. We'll dig into the idea behind sonic branding from a broad perspective.
Your visual toolkit has logos, it has photography, it has colour schemes, it has font, it has so many different systems. Music and sound should have that too.
And the specifics with a great audio teardown with some examples from a recent project for Fox's Bow in Limerick. We'll also be talking to 4 students from this year's Masters in Advertising and Creativity course. Perhaps future industry inductees, and we wanted to get their thoughts at a particular moment in time as they start their journey into the industry.
Honestly, I love a weird ad. Like, I love an ad that is like professionally done and it's very well thought out, but it's just a bit strange. You're like, why would they make that?
That's second half business, but before we get to that, one of the things we kind of want to cover on this podcast is not just the end output in terms of advertising campaigns, but also the components that go into making them happen. So that could be from a behind the scenes, production or creative point of view. Our first interview is a good example. We've Keith Lawler in studio, who's Creative Director at LAUDHAUS. Before we dive in, Keith, can you just give us an overview on your background and how it's brought you to where you are with LAUDHAUS?
Yeah, sure. So I started off in music. 20 years ago now. I was in a band called Give a Man a Kick, and I quickly realized, at a certain age, we'd achieved everything we wanted to achieve, and I wanted to try something new. I just finished college doing visual communications in Limerick School of Art and Design, and I wanted to see where that could take me. So I got into advertising. Very soon after that, I started working with TBWA as an intern in Dublin, and then worked my way up. I moved to Dubai. After 2 years there, I took an opportunity to move over there, which was really interesting. And that was a real eye-opener for so many reasons. Everything was huge and everything was incredible experiences. So I loved that. So then I came back from Dubai and joined what was called Target McConnell's at the time. Always in the back of my mind, I really wanted to marry advertising and music again. And I just noticed all of my clients were asking for the same thing without really knowing exactly what it was. And that was cohesive, distinct assets that are ownable to them, that create memory for customers, that create engagement. We were really working very hard on creating those in a visual world. I felt that music was overlooked in that space. And then I started to look into sonic branding. It just became really obvious to me that that's something that brands have overlooked. It's kind of imperative in today's world where everything is so engaged and everyone, social media is a sound on platform.
And can you tell us maybe, just to dig into that phrase, sonic branding or sonic identity? I think everybody probably has a kind of an idea or a notion, but just to clarify that, so it's over and above maybe just picking a piece of production music that you feel might align with your brand. It's something more detailed and involved than that.
Yeah, sure. I would define it as any sound that signifies the presence of a brand. That can be a sonic logo. So that can be that sting at the end of a piece of advertising, or the most famous ones we all know are boom for Netflix. When you think about it from a visual point of view, your visual toolkit has logos, it has photography, it has color schemes, it has font, it has so many different systems that all ladder up to creating the identity of the brand. Music and sound should have that too. I always go back to James Bond as one of the most perfect sonic brands that exists, because that was created in the 60s, and there's been 25 different versions of the Bond theme since, by 25 different artists, all coming from completely disparate backgrounds and totally diverse, but they all sound like Bond, even though those songs all sound completely different. And that's because they all have the same sonic DNA. With LAUDHAUS, we have a framework that we work to called the Louder framework. The first element of the Louder framework is the L, and that's for listening and learning. And that's where we listen to everywhere a brand makes sound. So if that's an airline, sure, there's advertising, there's communications, but then how do they show up on board the plane? what kind of voices do you hear when you land, for example, when you're online, when you're on social with them, what kind of accompanying sounds exist. But that could differ completely then to a high street store. The psychology of sound and music is hugely important, and it depends where the brand needs to show up. That's the second part. We do an audit.
I want to move then from the broad to the specific and the recent campaign you did for Fox's Bow Irish Whiskey. So maybe from the point of view of somebody who hasn't gone on this journey in terms of sound and looking at a sonic identity, can you maybe talk us through the process? And I know you've got some audio that can kind of illustrate that, and how, I guess, you went from idea, initial brief, through to finished output and the stages therein.
Fox's Bow are a brilliant company. They're a really up and coming, innovative company. Their brand is all about standing out from the shelf. So visually, their sea of sameness. If you look at a shelf, it's generally green, brown, black, dark. They were going to go, okay, if that's that way, if that's the way the category is, we're going to go the other way. They went for neon pink. They went for lots of color. They would say that they would be the first drink of the night, not the last drink of the night. Then we started to design it based on some of those distinct things. So the founders themselves really into 90s hip hop, sneaker culture, analog hip hop, sampling, that kind of stuff. So that was really kind of coming out clearly in their visual language. So we started to take that on board and build what we call a loud board, which is basically like a sonic mood board. What we wanted to create for them was a sonic logo firstly, then a brand theme. So that's a brand theme is about 2 minutes worth of music that has different moods, different feels, different vibes in it. But after that, then we do what's kind of like a little album where we take the brand theme and then we do versions of the songs. For example, if they sponsor a sports team, they have a piece of music that's really appropriate for that. Or if they've got a CSR initiative, the piano version is more appropriate for that. Let me just give you a little, let me see if you can hear this. This is the brand theme, and right from the start you're hearing crowds, and this was recorded in an alley at the side of a nightclub, which was really reflective of the type of audience that we're trying to appeal to. You're also hearing drum sounds here. That's a Limerick accent. Tons of effects on it. The drum sound itself that we made is the bottle recorded. The bass drum that you're hearing right now, that's the bottle cork as it's being popped and then tuned way down. But then there's loads of clinks, there's loads of the whiskey being poured into the glass with ice.
So it really is very bespoke sound design. I mean, it's not just about creating sounds that are, aligned with the brand. They are very tightly integrated with the brand. Is that always the case that if you're working on something that you would go and look at, say, even geographical things, locations and all of that, or is that something you might do for one brand and not for another?
So I think it's really about understanding the brand. Every brand has an accent, just like every human being has an accent that is reflective of their background, their community, their family, where they came from, all ladder up to the accent that is presented to people. So it's about capturing that.
Thanks to Keith Lawler from LAUDHAUS, and you just heard the sonic logo they produced for Fox's Bow there at the end, and then some audio components throughout the interview. Now, the Masters in Advertising and Creativity at TU Dublin recently started with its new cohort of students. I'd say the course has given many students their first taste of advertising, and quite a few graduates have gone on to work in the industry as well. So we thought it might be interesting to get the perspective as people start the course. What I wanted to do was get a snapshot of their thoughts before they've had a chance to immerse themselves fully. I think that unfiltered view is kind of interesting. And we'd also hope to interview the guys again in a year's time post-master to see how their expectations and understanding have kind of evolved over time. So with that in mind, we invited Tiziana, Priota, Ellen and Owen to join us in studio, and it went a bit like this. all of you really in your journey in marketing, regardless of whether that starts with this course or at undergraduate, you're kind of passing from being a consumer of media and marketing and advertising to a creator of it. So it's a very different perspective, because one is a kind of a passive approach, if you like, where information is coming at you, whereas as I suppose a practitioner, you're creating media, you're creating marketing, and it's a totally different mindset. So I guess have you thought about how your perspective might change? And we'll start with you on it, Ellen, if you don't mind.
I would be like kind of an impulsive buyer. If I see something that I like, it's not really that I understand the science behind it. I'm just like, oh, I like the look of that. I think I might, go buy it. So I suppose by the end of this course, it would also be nice to have a knowledge of what they're really trying to do to my brain and how they're trying to get me to interact with that ad.
And of course, it'll be you doing it to people's brains in time to come, won't it?
That's very true. Yeah. Even better to have the skill myself. Yeah.
And same question to you, Tiziana. Do you think your perspective might change as you kind of get under the bonnet with the master's course?
Well, for me, I've always pay attention to ads because all my family my parents have their own business and my brother is dedicated to marketing as well. So I've always pay attention to that. Maybe before I used to see the ads and think about, well, what is the public that they are trying to reach? What is the message or the channels that they are in? But now I'm seeing more the creative side. Like, what was the idea? How was planned that in Argentina, maybe they are more straightforward ads, not that creative, I would say.
You guys are presumably in your mid-20s or late 20s perhaps, but you're of a certain generation. And I'm wondering, what's the kind of the advertising that you feel is effective, that works for you? I'm wondering what you think now makes for an effective ad, and I'm wondering whether that might change over time. We'll start with you, Owen.
Honestly, I love a weird ad. Like, I love an ad that is like professionally done and it's very well thought out, but it's just a bit strange. You're like, why would they make that? Like back, I'd say like 2016, that kind of era, Wendy's on Twitter, they were posting like they weren't a company. They were posting as if it was like just any random person, and everyone was like, what? Why are they doing that? Like, and I think that kind of brought me towards it. I've never been to America. I've never had Wendy's, but I was like, I'm obsessed with the Wendy's brand now.
And that's really stayed with you, even though it was 2016, 9 years ago.
Exactly. It was just so weird. I was like, okay, I like that.
I think an ad that provokes emotion in people for me would be most effective. So what kind of comes to mind, I suppose, is every year I look forward to the John Lewis ad at Christmas. Like, just remember watching them throughout the years, and I feel like I've cried after seeing most of them, and it's almost like a story that like you don't want to end, even though it's only going to be 2 minutes long.
Now, you guys will be working in effectively the creative sector, which is a very unique sector, different in many ways to a lot of other industries and areas. What do you think are the keys to success in terms of working with and being successful in creativity?
I think it's a key to have a partner for these works. You have the confidence to say like, okay, that was a good idea or bad idea.
Anybody else?
I'd say it's probably about the same. Like having someone good that you can bounce off of, or even like a group of people that you can kind of just word vomit everything out. I think another good one is kind of having a thick skin. Like something you might think is the best idea in the world, they're like, no, that's absolutely terrible. It's just kind of not taking it personally and be like, okay, right, start again.
AI, as kind of, being in that space now, are you guys at the stage where can you start to identify if something is AI as opposed to, original creative, both from the point of view of the consumer and the producer in terms of seeing ads? And are you seeing a lot of AI slop and stuff that you just feel is just not connecting because it's, just iterative or just generated? So I guess just throw that open, I suppose.
I think so. I think our generation specifically, we kind of were there when it first kind of started to become big. So I feel like we're a lot more kind of conscious of it. We know what to look for, like look for the fingers, look for any weird kind of movements, and we're able to kind of pick it out fairly easily. But with that being said, like it is becoming a lot bigger and it is becoming a lot more advanced. So it does get harder. But I think overall it is going to be very beneficial. But like I think as a tool to be able to kind of advance things or like to make things easier to make, I think it's going to be very effective.
Oh, I think AI is incredible, and I think it's very brilliant because I feel like it really has helped us kind of think outside the box. You can actually use it to kind of tell you, to give you commands and to kind of create that visual for you. So I think that AI has kind of helped, as long as we don't misuse it and don't use it for like plagiarism. I think it is an excellent tool to kind of help you.
That's Priota finishing out our piece, and I'd like to wish all 4 students the best of luck as they work through their masters. And that's it for this week's edition of the Irish Marketing Podcast, recorded, edited and mixed at Tinpot Productions Studios. If you've got a story you'd like to hear featured on the pod, get in touch. Contact details are in the show notes. And we're back next Friday, wherever you pick your pods. Thanks for listening.